When I was sent a Pentax K3 Mark III monochrome and a Pentax 16-50 2.8 lens for review, I must admit that I did not know what to expect. Releasing an APS-C DSLR in 2023, one that captures monochrome images only, is quite a bold move, and the K3 III monochrome is in fact the only camera in existence that can claim these unique specifications. But after using this camera for a few weeks, however, I have found a lot to love about it, and it doesn't begin and end with the monochrome sensor. Now, the first thing that struck me about the K3 Mark III monochrome was the robust build quality of the camera. Since the monochrome is based on the Pentax K3 III, which is their flagship DSLR, I did expect it to be well made, and it most certainly is. The camera is not small, but for a flagship, it is compact, and it weighs in at 735 grams. The grip on the camera is deep and comfortable, which added to the shooting experience when using the 16-50, which is a fairly large lens. Although there are quite a few buttons and knobs on the exterior of this camera, it took me a very short amount of time to become familiar with each one, and within an hour or so of experimenting with the K3 Mark III monochrome, I felt completely at home with it. The control layout is intuitive and offers a great deal of customization as well as small touches that users will appreciate. For instance, the PASM dial has a locking button in the center, which needs to be pressed in order to change the settings. Now, this, of course, is nothing unique for a DSLR, but there is another lock switch located at the bottom of the PASM dial, which allows a user to disengage the lock and rotate the dial freely without having to press the center button. This was one of quite a few small but appreciated details I discovered while using this camera. Another appreciated detail is the unmarked rotating dial on the top plate of the camera. By default, this dial is set to adjust autofocus settings. I was easily able to change it to control the ISO, which made the entire operation of the camera really seamless for a person like me who prefers to shoot primarily in fully manual. So with this change, the front command dial controls the shutter speed, the rear command dial the aperture, and then the top dial the ISO. Easy and very appreciated. Another smart design is the on-off switch circling the shutter button. On many cameras, a pull past the on setting will light the LCD screen, but on the Pentax, it engages the depth of field preview, which I thought was pretty cool. I found the operation of the K3 III monochrome, including the location of buttons and dials, as well as the menu system, to be pretty straightforward and laid out very well. So this means that users considering this camera who have been with another camera company or other camera systems have very little to worry about in regard to learning this as a brand new system. In fact, the quirkiest feature that I found was the TAV mode, which combines aperture and shutter priority, meaning you can freely change both settings, but the camera will pick the correct ISO for you, which again, I thought was a pretty cool setting. DSLRs are dead. Long live the DSLR. Now, we've heard these sentiments before, of course, and I personally have been using mirrorless cameras exclusively for almost 2 years now. So the thought of going back to using a DSLR again was not something that excited me at first. Here, though, again, the Pentax surprised me because I actually found myself enjoying the whole experience of using a DSLR again. Now, I don't think this is due to DSLRs in general, but more due to this particular camera. And what I mean is, it's a great camera. So the autofocus, for example, is fast and accurate. And although I can't say it never misses, like my Canon R5, I was nonetheless impressed by the speed and accuracy for a DSLR. The viewfinder is bright and features 100% coverage, which makes composing images easy in a variety of lighting situations. Although the camera makes for a great shooting experience, using a DSLR in 2023 is, of course, a compromise for those of us who've been using mirrorless systems for any amount of time. So I mentioned the autofocus. Now, the autofocus in the K3 is good, but it's not nearly as fast and accurate as the face and eye detect system in a modern mirrorless camera. Also, the autofocus sensors do not cover the entirety of the viewfinder, and they're clustered in the middle, which is typical for a DSLR. And although I have no problem using a light meter and finding the correct exposure, I did miss the benefit of a live view EVF for composing, focusing, and exposure control. The camera itself also has some nice little touches. The menu is in monochrome by default, and all of the writing on the camera is also in different shades of gray. Now, there is a lot to praise about the K3's ergonomics, its handling, and its performance, but let's get to the heart of the matter. The K3 Mark III Monochrome's 25 megapixel monochrome sensor is the main and really the only reason most people are going to consider buying this particular camera. Now, in a typical color sensor, light must pass through a red, green, and blue filter before being captured by the sensor. Since the K3 Mark III Monochrome lacks these filters, the camera is able to capture more light and more detail than a standard color sensor, which results in better sharpness and less noise at higher ISOs. The camera features 3 picture styles: standard, hard, and soft, as well as the ability to create custom profiles for your images. And an excellent feature is the ability to take a photo and, while reviewing it on the screen, toggle between the 3 picture styles to see in real time the difference the results will have. The standard mode works well for a variety of subjects and provides even tones across the frame. The hard setting greatly increases contrast and images are created much darker, while the soft mode creates a flatter high key look. The images from the K3 Mark III Monochrome are beautiful, and I found myself doing very little in terms of editing, which made the camera even more enjoyable to use. Now, I found the experience sort of similar to using a Fujifilm camera with a film simulation, with the obvious difference being that there is no live view of the black and white when you're looking through the viewfinder. I used the camera for a number of photo shoots, including family photos, trip to a comic convention, and 2 portrait shoots. In each of these situations, I was able to create images that are sharp, with beautiful gray tones, subtle transitions, and excellent dynamic range. The images also look very clean and do indeed have minimal noise. The files also have quite a wide latitude for editing, which is nice. Now, keep in mind that all the images taken in this review were taken with the 16 to 50 2.8 Pentax ED PLM AW lens. The K3 Mark III Monochrome is the definition of niche. In fact, research into a monochrome camera began after the company surveyed Pentax fans who showed a tremendous interest in the idea of a monochrome-only camera. And although some want to compare the Pentax to the Leica M11 monochrome, the Leica body costs $9,100 and the Pentax costs $2,100, so I find the comparison very silly. Therefore, the Pentax K3 monochrome is unique among cameras today, not just because of its specifications, but also because it can be fitted with any number of older Pentax K-mount lenses. Now, this fact alone will appeal to die-hard Pentax users who have collected a bunch of manual lenses over the years and have them in their possession right now. So regarding my question, who is this camera for? Well, I think that is going to primarily appeal to current Pentax users who already are invested in the brand and the system and have brand loyalty. Now, aside from that, photographers who love shooting in black and white and also appreciate the handling of a DSLR over a mirrorless camera will no doubt find a lot to love about this particular camera. For those people interested in the singular features of this particular camera, I'm sure they're going to find a lot to love about it. Well, that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed my review of the Pentax K3 Mark III Monochrome, K3 to the third power monochrome camera, whatever you'd like to call it. And as usual, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button. Go ahead and drop me a comment. Have you used this camera? Do you have one? Do you want one? Do you think it's cool? Let me know. Love to hear from you. And make sure you check out my sponsors. I'll put some links in the description below. So if you're going to go out and buy one of these bad boys, I'd appreciate if you use one of my links if this review has helped you make that decision. Here's wishing you an awesome day, my friends. Go out and take some great pictures, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.